Evening, chaps. How we doing?
Very well, yourself?
Very good, thank you.
Not too bad. Yeah.
We got someone else with us.
Oh, that's a strange voice. Who's that?
Yeah.
Scott, I'm here.
At last.
At
Now,
last.
after we named and shamed you on the previous episode.
Couldn't make it last one.
So, Scott Gardner, 13 years at Porsche Bournemouth.
God, it's more than that now. It's coming up to 14 and a half, I think.
Did you start at 10?
I started at a young boy, come out a man.
Scott Gardner, 14 and a half years, Porsche Gold technician at Porsche Bournemouth. Ran out of excuses now, so decided at last to come on Road to Redline. We've been keen to get you on for a while now. We're looking forward to hearing your story in and out of the workshop, to be honest with you, because your car history is super interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you got to drop the big clanger, haven't you?
What's that?
So what's the little car?
Little car.
Fly the flag.
Here he goes.
So currently got a Cayman.
Yeah.
987 Cayman.
Oh yeah.
Massive fan. So yeah, that's my weekend bit of fun.
So let's just point out to everybody, so tonight we're a 50-50 down the middle. So normally it's me fighting off these two.
Okay.
Cayman bashing.
Okay.
I don't Cayman bash.
I wouldn't go
give
that
over.
far. Yeah, they're all right.
Look at them backtracking. Just because Scott's here. Don't give that one.
He's quite big, isn't he?
So yeah, at least we got a bit more Cayman clout tonight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know, Scott, how much you kind of would care to divulge, but like one thing's for sure, you got it for an astounding price, and it was a bit of a fixer-upper, wasn't it? That you did.
It was a complete out of the blue purchase, really. So I was up at Alton Park Racing with the Resto Racing through work, and got a text message, got a bit of a really poor picture of a car sent to me, absolutely filthy.
Classic Carl, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a Part X, it's going cheap. Do you want it? And kind of on the spot, I just said yeah, and that was it. I didn't plan on buying a car. I didn't think about it. I just kind of did it. It's too good a price to sort of miss up, really.
What was your initial thought with right? I'm going to get this car. What was the plan? Flip it?
I mean, probably not flip it, because I've been without a weekend car for a little while, so I needed something to tickle that spot, sort of thing. But my biggest worry was as long as it looks all right, really, because mechanically I can fix anything and do it with my eyes shut. So as long as it looked all right, bodywork was presentable, I was happy. So bought it blind, went up there the next weekend, transferred the money over and drove it back, and happy days.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it the other week. I thought it's actually pretty clean, isn't it?
Do you know what? It's done, been to the moon and back mileage wise. It's on 169,000 at the moment, but it wears it so well. The interior of it looks like a car that's done 20,000 miles.
I can't believe it.
So
don't look
super happy.
That's a good rolling advert for the Caymans, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Is it an old lady that weighed 2 stone?
No, it wasn't. It was a bigger chap actually, and
wow.
he just ploughed the motorway miles on it.
Yeah.
So it's peppered. Front end is peppered with stone chips, but I don't mind that because I use and abuse it. I track it and enjoy it. So yeah.
So what have you been up to with the car since you bought it then? What have you had to do and what have you chosen to do?
God, what have I not done? Within the first 3 months, I had the engine out of it. I had a full engine rebuild. I had the typical scored bore cylinder 6. So rebuilt that in the garage. I've had all new suspension, new arms, new brakes, new braided lines, wheels powder coated, sticky tyres.
Is everything fairly stock, or have you sort of gone a bit after?
So most of it's stock. It's got H&R 35mm springs on it, some spacers, braided lines, Ferretto pads for track use. Engine-wise is all pretty much stock. Obviously, it had the Hartec reline, so it's kind of future-proof. But everything else is pretty much as it is. I've got a D-cat on the primary cats, standard sports exhaust with the butterflies open.
How does it go?
She's absolutely sweet. Absolutely sweet. Yeah, I don't need to do anything more to it now. It's all done, ready to just enjoy.
Perfect.
So done a couple of track days in it, done Cadwell, did Pembrey in it recently, got Silverstone booked up end of November. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Pembrey. You've got to tell the pod exactly what happened there.
I had a bit of an accident at Pembrey, non-car related though. But,
It's obviously a story here.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a boys' weekend up in Wales. Me and Dave drove up on the Friday. He's got a 997.1, lovely Guards Red example. And we drove all the Brecon Beacons roads on the Friday, perfect. Camped up there on the Friday night, lovely little campsite. Did a track day on the Saturday, it was awesome. Got fastest lap of the day, fastest thing out there. Ploughed on and did 135 laps in the day. Just
excellent.
Car was like faultless. After the track day, went and had a bit of a curry, a couple of beers, got back to the campsite, had a couple more beers, and a couple more. And I ended up falling in the fire pit, which is not good.
Wasn't expecting that.
So I burnt all up my arm. 3rd-degree burns, did my body, so I've got a perfect ring on my body for the edge of the fire pit. It was in a bit of a mess. So,
did you realise at the time, or were you too
Do
inebriated?
you know what?
Slipped through it.
I don't even remember it. Remember it happening. Yeah, don't even remember it happening. So pretty bad. And
Scotty too hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you just had that one teed up?
You've been waiting for that line all night.
Oh, right, no, that is.
So made a bit of a mess of myself. Didn't take myself to the hospital. Drove back from Wales the next morning, just in a bit of a mess.
Put a bit of Vaseline on it.
Exactly. Yeah, and I thought, well,
right.
I can't walk through the door to my missus in the state I'm in, so got
Did you go via A&E?
Yeah, got myself down to Poole Hospital when I got back, and 10 hours later, I was all bandaged up and still in the doghouse now. But it was a good track day, and I'd do it all again in a blink of an eye. No regrets at all. So.
Excellent. That's what it's all about. No, not so much the burns, but fair play. Well, the car, because obviously you and Dave and a couple of others from Porsche Bournemouth came down to West Bay for our road to West Bay run, so we really appreciate that. And the Cayman just looked resplendent now. I can't believe the miles that it's done for the looks.
It doesn't show it at all.
No, and we'll put some pictures up on our Road to Redline Instagram page if you wouldn't mind sending them to us, just so people can have good old butchers, because it just exemplifies what the Cayman's all about. I think.
Absolutely.
What awesome success story.
It is.
So.
Just before we leave the Cayman, what tyres are you running on it?
Cup 2s.
Cup 2s. And what do they go like on a...
Cup 2s on a 19-inch is wicked. I think you got to get the pressures right. Mm-hmm. I think I was running 30 PSI and 31 on the back, and they were just wicked. Mm-hmm. Even at Pembrey, it was wet, and they just stuck like glue. Absolutely blown away by them. I rate them massively.
What are you running on yours at the moment? Because they were...
On our Cayman?
Yeah.
What are we running?
Chinese, aren't
they?
Are they Nankangs? I think I kept them.
We are running Nankangs, and they were actually, to be fair, I think they've actually been pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm quite impressed actually. But they're kind of a 50-50 slick road tyre. So I think you get a bit more.
But you've got the 18s, haven't you? So you're running a bit more sidewall.
Yes. Yeah. So there is. Yeah.
So I've got another set of 18s, and I'm tempted to put some Yokos on it.
Yeah.
And see what they're like, but I'm in two minds. Don't know. We'll see.
It's all good fun, isn't it? We'll find out. So, it'd be interesting to see which is the quicker Cayman, because Joe's Cayman's that's a fairly committed to the add lightness mantra and whatnot. So
we should do swaps. See how we get on.
It'd be interesting. Would be interesting.
This track day November that Scotty was mentioning, that sounds like the ideal day for a showdown. I think.
I see me embarrassing myself. Standard Scotty's Cayman flying car doing laps of our sort of stripped out track car.
Caymans at dawn.
But they're wicked on track. Like the way they handle and turn in is just insane. Absolutely insane. Like the balance of them is, I'm blown away by how good they were. Yeah, I mean it was. Leaving Dave and his 997 for dead. And that's that's a car that I rebuilt the engine on. I know it like the back of my hand. That is a solid car.
Yeah.
And that's why we had so much good fun with ours, because you sort of, people don't expect too much.
No.
You can go out there and play with all the big boys.
Yeah, exactly. The
amount of people that think you're doing something special, or something mad going on with the car.
I mean, there was a 2016, it was an Elise Cup S, I think. And you expect that to be the track toy, the car to go to for track days. And I was out breaking him. I was doing him on the corners. It was just incredible, really.
Amazing.
So,
and when effectively it's just a standard car,
really.
Exactly.
Set
of brake pads.
With slightly different suspension, and away you go. Yeah.
What else you had then, Scott?
What car-wise?
Yeah.
So I started off my early days in the Saxos. big Citroen Saxo fan.
VTS or VTR?
So I was a Furio boy.
1.4
1.4, but in my typical
down.
fashion, swapped the engine out for a VTS,
Excellent.
caged it, bucket seats, done the ring in it, been 3,500 miles around Europe in it, loved it. My first proper car was a 330 BM cab. Really, really nice. E46, love that.
Yeah.
Then went into estates, so family started coming along, had to be practical, so I was in the Saab, trusty Saab estate, you just can't go wrong. And then my first Porsche was a 2004 986S. That was a part exchange in at work. Actually, no, tell a lie, it was recovered to us at work for a severe oil leak. We got it in the workshop, customer authorised us to sort of diagnose it. So we took the engine out and it was confirmed IMS failure, so the intermediate shaft bearing failed. It needed basically a full rebuild with a new shaft because that was a cheaper repair than a replacement engine. And the cost of that basically wrote the value of the car off. So the customer didn't know what to do. He didn't want to fork out for the rebuild. And I think he made sort of a passing comment to the service advisor at the time that, do you know anyone that will take it off my hands in its current state? And he come straight to me and asked me, and because I didn't even blink an eyelid, and was like, yeah, I'll more than happily take it as it is, because an engine rebuild for me doesn't scare me at all.
It's all free labour, isn't it?
So I said to him, what do you want for it? And he goes, well, you settle up the bill at Porsche Bournemouth and you can have it.
Wow. That's a result.
Oh my God, yeah. So he authorised us to take the engine out, do a partial strip to just confirm it was the IMS, and I think the bill was like 907 quid. So I squared up the bill for that, and I had my first Boxster S for sub £1,000, which was mental.
How cool is that?
It was a silver car, had the S wheels, 80,000 on the clock, 2-owner car, nice spec, PCM. So that was my first Porsche. Flatbedded it back home, got the engine back in the garage, did a rebuild on it, manhandled the engine back in on the driveway on my back on a Sunday morning, and enjoyed that for the next 6 months.
What was the turnaround time?
So it took me, I think it was about a week and a half to get the engine boxed up in the evenings after work. Got it in the following weekend, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. The only downside of that car was a Tiptronic, which every time you say Tiptronic in a Porsche, it's a bit of a swear word, isn't it? It's, but for me, it changed my mind on the Tiptronic box. So I used it as a daily, and you could hop in it an autopilot, point and squirt, and not even think about it, driving it sort of properly. So as a daily commute, it was awesome. So absolutely loved that car. Had that 6 months, sold that, made a bit of money on it, and what was I in next after that? Had my BM, had my Saab. I think I might have been in the Audi then. Had an A6 Avant for a while. So again, family wagon with the kids. Then had a similar case actually. So I had 987 Boxster S, got recovered into us for work. Exactly the same scenario, leaking oil.
Did you see it come in and go, I've been here before?
Yeah, deja vu. But that was exactly it. Exactly the same thing. So customer authorised us to diagnose it. We diagnosed it, needed a full rebuild.
I can take that off your hands for you.
Exactly. And the cost of the rebuild outweighed the value of the car. And on a 987, parts for an engine are a lot more than a 986. So an M97 engine, a set of piston rings, you're looking almost £1,000. So the cost of the rebuild through us was, I think it must have been about 14 grand for the rebuild. Wow. Car's perhaps worth 12, 13. Exactly the same thing happened. He ended up part exchanging the car into work for a 718, and he part exchanged it in at the value of the outstanding bill. I ended up buying it off Porsche Bournemouth as a part exchange for the best part of 1,200 quid.
Yeah.
But the upside of it was this car was box fresh, 13,000 miles on an 05 plate.
13,000
miles.
Wow.
Garaged from life, never been out in the rain. This thing was showroom fresh.
For the price of an MX-5.
For silly money. And the spec on it had the 19-inch lobster claws, full leather, nav, heated seats, phone. Had everything on it for an early Boxster. Exactly the same thing happened. Got it flatbedded back to mine, put all the engine bits in the back of my car, back in the garage, rebuilt the engine again, and happy days.
So what was wrong with that? Was that IMS again?
That was IMS again, yeah. So an early 2005 car, that was the smaller RMS bearing, so the one that prones to fail. So the end of the shaft actually snaps off and the bearing completely fails.
Just to put the whole myth to bed, because like we talked about it.
I mean, it's not going to put it to bed, is it?
It's good to get an educated opinion on this, isn't it? Because there's lots of people that talk about it.
Yeah, the two big ones are IMS and Porsche, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's like, do you see in your 14 and a half years, do you see one a week, one a year, one every 3 years?
So
you obviously make advantage out of that situation.
I think it's just timing and luck more than anything. Like, we don't prey on cars at all to poach them off customers. That was just a case of luck more than anything. I was in the right place at the right time, but we haven't seen an IMS failure at work for a couple of years now. We haven't seen a scored bore issue at work for 2-3 years. Now, whether that's because time's coming on now and
People have already replaced
they've either already been replaced,
or
they've already been done, or the cost of the cars now, where they've come down in value, they're going to independence.
Yeah.
So they're going to places like Hartech to get relined.
So go back like 5 years.
Yeah.
How often was it then?
A couple of months. Yeah. I mean, I've built more M96, M97 engines than I care to remember. I could probably tell you the torque settings of every nut and bolt on the engine.
Excellent. So what specific, because there were 3 different IMS bearings, weren't there?
Yeah.
So what is the...
So the first 2 were the ones that failed fairly regularly. I mean, when people say they fail, you can have 2 types of failure. One, they leak oil, which is fine.
Yeah.
All they do is leak oil. It's not failed as such. You've just
got a wet clutch.
You've got, basically, and you can either have oil just missed in a dampness or it's physically dripping onto the floor. 9 times out of 10, the oil leak's wet. There might be a drip starting to pool off the bottom of the bell housing, but it's not the end of the world. That car will go on for the next 5-10 years. But then the worst failure is when the bearing actually fails completely, it shears off, and then it's game over. But we don't see that very, very frequently at all. It's the later shaft, which has got the 20, I think it's a 22 mil nut. That's the one that's kind of fixed, really. I've not really seen a failed later RMS shaft.
So is that from 2002 model?
No, so there's a crossover. So all Caymans have got the larger nut, and then there's a crossover year in the 987 family. So the early 987s had the smaller one, and I think it was around 2005, 2006 they switched then over to the larger bearing, or the superseded bearing, which seems to be absolutely fine.
So the last of the 997s.
Last of the 997s are good,
Oh, there were dot ones, isn't it? The last
dot ones,
So
but then they still suffer from the scored bores.
Right,
So it's kind of swings and roundabouts on those.
If you find yourself a Cayman, you've got no problems at all, have you?
Cayman's the one. It's the one to go for. 987 Generation 1. Dream.
Stop
It's the
talking
dream.
the values up for your cars. Anyway, we want to come back to like proper Porsche Workshop 101 shortly. That should like salivate. Hopefully, you guys listen at home and for now. But yes, I want to go back to your car history and that Boxster. So
I had that Boxster, that beautiful, beautiful car. Had that for 2 to 3 months. And the only reason I sold it was because we had to move house. So I had to free up some money in the car, move house, and I regret selling it. I wish I still had it. I look back at photos of it and it's like, it's a car that should have just been kept. It was perfect in every way. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It was genuinely just perfect. Got rid of that. Kept the Audi as my sort of daily family wagon. Then the Cayman came about through Carl. And then now I'm in a Cayenne as the sort of family wagon as well. So I've got the Cayenne as the sort of the daily, and for the kids and the runabout, and then the Cayman for the weekends and
great
track
setup.
fun. So
fully Porsche up.
Yeah, fully Porsche up. I love
yeah.
it. The matching specs. I got matching plates. I love it. Yeah, it's good.
Every detail. Is that a turbo? I can't remember.
No, it's just a 3-litre diesel.
Okay,
3-litre TDI. It's a Bogo standard Cayenne. Again, it's a part exchange at work, so I've got a cracking deal on it. But it's got a really weird, quirky spec. Like, it's got heated front windscreen. It's got the dark anthracite birch interior trim pack, heated steering wheel, which again is rare on a 2012 car. It's just such a cool spec car.
Awesome.
Yeah, love it.
Cracking. Yeah, good setup, I'd say.
Yeah, super chuffed.
Excellent. So, like Porsche Bournemouth and whatnot. Like, how did it come around to you working at like a Porsche Centre? And what's it like as well?
Blimey. So I started there straight from school. So I I think I was in year 10 or 11. I did a 2-week work experience stint there in the workshop.
You just didn't leave?
Didn't leave, basically, yeah. So I did my 2 weeks there in the workshop. Loved it. Loved fettling with cars. Always been a petrol head. My dad's always been a petrol head. So yeah, did the 2-week work experience. Then did my GCSEs. Had no intention of doing sixth form or no idea what to do next. And yeah, had a letter through the post from the after sales manager to say, do I want to come and join the Porsche apprenticeship program? Awesome. And I thought, yeah, why not? So back then it was like a bit of a privilege to be invited to do that. There's not many Porsche apprentices out there.
Is that still going today, or is that
still going today? Yeah. So we've just taken on another apprentice there.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's still going today, albeit it's not run by Porsche now. They sort of outsource it to a bigger company.
Yeah.
So yeah, did a 3-year apprenticeship there. I was apprentice of the year for 2 consecutive years. So first apprentice to ever do that, which was amazing.
Awesome.
Went on to do my Master Tech Diploma, which is a 4th year, which again, no other Porsche apprentice has ever gone on to do. Managed to smash through that, got on really well. They then invited me back to do another 2 years foundation degree in automotive business and management. So yeah, did the foundation degree with them whilst working full time as a technician, which was hard work, but totally worth it, you know. And then worked my way up through Porsche Bournemouth as a sort of service technician. They class it as like a bronze, silver, gold status now. So you start off as a bronze tech, which is sort of your basic servicing, then you go on to do your silver, which is a bit more diagnostic work, and then you go up to gold status, which is the equivalent of master tech level. Yeah. And back then I was one of the youngest techs out there to be a master tech with Porsche. I think there's only 30 in the network. Super, you know, really, really good thing to have. Super chuffed. Difficult to get there, but totally worth it.
Can you lose that title, or are you
so you basically need to maintain it. So you've got to do a certain amount of training courses each year, and then you need to re-accreditate. So every 2 to 3 years you need to redo your tests, just to make sure you don't lose it really and keep on top of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did 2 years as a gold technician there, and then the role came up for workshop manager, controller, foreman, whatever you want to call it. Went for that.
Yeah. And
here I am 18 months later as workshop manager at Porsche Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Do you miss the spanners though? It's a bit more pen pushing,
massively,
isn't it?
Massively,
really?
yeah. Like hanging up the spanners.
Do you ever get days where you just sort of roll your sleeves up and go, right, I'm getting stuck in?
Oh, today I was out in the workshop for an hour just cleaning benches and stuff, and I loved it. You know, it's sad, isn't it? But from spannering and ripping engines apart to going behind a computer screen and having a desk job is chalk and cheese. So yeah, I miss it massively.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you've all almost sort of missed your vocation in some ways.
Yeah,
you get
this is it. Exactly,
become the chief of it and don't actually get to do the bits that you've been trained to do.
So the job satisfaction is completely different. So rather than rebuilding an engine and starting up for the first time on the button and you know everything's there, you know, your job satisfaction is that you've just done 15 jobs through the day. They've all gone back. I've got happy customers. Yeah. Technicians have got their next job lined up. I've done my bit right, which is really, really different and weird to sort of get your head around.
Yeah.
But then on the flip
almost
side,
need a Friday afternoon skunk works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Knock out the odd service. Yeah. But then on the flip side, when I spanner now for my own private work or my own cars, it's that much more enjoyable because I've missed it.
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
For example, this weekend I'm doing a load of work on a 997. I'm doing crossover pipes, brakes, loads of stuff, and I can't wait. Can't wait to get my hands
Still got
dirty.
the passion for
it. Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's important to get across, which is what you've told me before, like just how much kind of constant training goes into the life of a technician at Porsche. It's not just a case of, well, you know the stuff now, welcome aboard. It's constant. And that's, we're not even talking about when there's a new model released and you guys have to then go off and do an in-depth workshop to a granular level to learn everything about that car, so that from day one, when that car's released, if it needs to come into you, you're ready. You guys are on it. Yeah,
it's not even intensive. That. I think it's the way technology now is advancing so quickly, and you get model year changes that are subtle, and you need to just be on it. You need to know what's happening in the world of Porsche and their cars. Subtle things like Taycan's only just come out. yet the model year 21 car has got X, Y, and Z more than the model year 20.
Yeah.
So you need to know and always keep on it, know what those changes are, be trained on those.
Just a touch on the Taycan while we're there. I mean, that must have been, it's obviously worlds apart from everything you've been used to ever.
Yeah.
Suddenly you get handed, a thing with a plug-in battery and a PlayStation controller.
Have you found the turbo yet? Because we never found it.
The turbo?
Yeah, where is the turbo?
I think there's a little bit of plastic on the back that just says it. That's the best you're going to get, I think. But,
that must be a bit of a daunting day, though, when you because that's just not even, it's a whole different
It is, but then on the other side is we've had hybrid since 2011, I think. The KN hybrid came out.
Can you see the crossover?
There are
the two?
crossovers, the high voltage systems, the auxiliary heaters, the basic principles are the same. Okay. So a lot of the tooling for the hybrids can cross over as well. So it's not like all of a sudden you're deep in with diesel engines and, flat sixes straight onto the electric side. I think they phased it quite well. So there's a definite crossover from the hybrids, the E3 KN and the 971 4E hybrid, for example. They're very similar bits and pieces on them. So, but they are worlds apart. It's just software at the moment. We're seeing software programming.
Does that car conceptually excite you as much as a car with an engine?
I think from a consumer point of view, if you were the one behind the seat driving it, yes. And like for me, with driving it, you're blown away massively. But I couldn't get excited working on one as I could on a flat six engine. An electric motor and a high voltage heater doesn't excite me. I'm very much more about the mechanicals and getting your hands dirty.
So obviously your end of the business is seeing all the problems. So although it sounds like we're painting worst picture of the cars, we're not. You are the receiver.
I could any car you tell me on the Porsche, I could tell you.
So with the Taycan, for example, is it pretty much all software driven? Do you get
so at the moment
motors and batteries go wrong?
At the moment, there's just a lot of campaigns being released, so ironing out still sort of teething problems, updates on software. We are seeing a few little bits and pieces, but I probably shouldn't be saying them. But there are.
Have you had any set on fire yet?
We haven't had we don't want any set on fire.
No,
that'd be a scary thought, but no, none of that's happened. But there are a couple of trends that we are seeing with them, but nothing major. It's only little quirky bits, But they're incredible bits of kit. They're, miles and miles apart from anything else out there.
Yeah.
And it's weird. You can see how it's going to then cross over into the 911 and sports cars. You can see there being an electric 911 from that Taycan. It is interesting, but for me, it's all about engines and
That's the thing. You might say kind of run-of-the-mill stuff day to day. You'll have servicing in for 991s, 992s and stuff. But, I mean, we see air-cooled in Porsche Bournemouth all the time. If a nice 993 comes through the door,
exactly it.
Surely that gets you guys going, doesn't it?
For sure. I mean, we've got technicians there that have been there 20 plus years. They PDI'd them when they were new. They know air-cooled better than sort of anyone.
I was going to ask about, because the breadth of knowledge you must have have going all the way back to those early air-cooled cars, all the way through to new Taycans.
I mean, I'll hold my hands up. I know very little about air-cooled. I started in 2006, so my bread and butter is 986, 997 onwards.
There's plenty of them to fix.
Exactly. Exactly. Whereas you got a technician there that started 20 years ago. His bread and butter is the 964s, 3.2 Carreras, and 993s, and if you give him one of those to work on, he would be more comfortable working on that than he would perhaps something else.
Well, that's good because as a dealership, you've got it covered, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think you need that mix. It's getting that balance right. But we see air-cooled all the time. We've got 4 993s in at the moment, for different varying bits and pieces. So,
Why do you think there are a lot of technicians that start their training in the Porsche dealership network, get their badges, if you like, and then they kind of get lost to the independent specialist network?
I don't think that's true with just Porsche. I think that's true with just any main dealer. I think the politics involved with working at a main dealer or a manufacturer is getting more and more that, the justification for warranty, for example, and the processes that you have to follow. You have to have video evidence of faults. You have to have typed up write-ups. You have to have systems that you then process and justify your labour. And that's the same with any manufacturer. And that process can become a bit long-winded and tedious. You're a technician, you want to be working on a car, whereas your time now can be spent at a computer typing up reports and compressing video files to attach to X, Y, and Z so that when it's processed, they can see what you've done.
Okay.
So I think that's more the case for any manufacturer, really. But you do see them migrate away from main dealer off to the specialists, perhaps with the easier life, maybe. But then they perhaps won't get the easier life because then they're not kept up to date with factory training. They perhaps don't see the newer cars come through until sort of 5 years later when they're a bit, out of the warranty network.
Yeah.
So it swings and roundabouts, really. Yeah.
Do you think there's a perceived kind of higher price you pay for going to OPC over an Indy?
Yeah.
Do you think you actually get that in value in terms? I mean, I don't obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I can tell you
that's a loaded question.
I can tell you horror stories from cars that we've had to us from Indies that you are just gobsmacked at their workmanship or what they've done or what they think they're trying to justify to claim from the customer. That being said, don't get me wrong, there's good Indies out there that know what they're doing and are genuine and, credit to them. But yeah, if you brought your car to an OPC, you pay for the training, you pay for all the special tooling, you pay for the experience, you pay for the genuine parts, you pay for everything, really. And I think
maybe you get a bit more for your money than people realise.
I think you do, yeah, definitely. And I think it probably adds value to your car as well. If you bought a 911 and it's had a full engine rebuild at an official Porsche Centre, that's probably worth more than that. Fred in his shed's just knocked the engine together, and you don't know if genuine parts have been used. Has the special tools been used to time it up properly? So there are questions out there that do make you question it. But I think there is a hidden added value for sure.
I'd agree with that, without a doubt. I think there's a lot of people with, say, a 10-year-old 911.
Yeah,
they might have a friend or someone if they just need like an oil change or bits and pieces, but they totally understand the merit. For servicing, that stamping the book, taking it to a Porsche dealership, that's definitely a thing.
And I think the cost of the servicing at main dealer versus Indy isn't far apart.
Not anymore.
We can price match, we can do deals, especially with sort of classic cars now. You got a classic car register, they get a discount on parts and labour. Labour rates reduced anyway.
Has that push, like where Porsche Classic lasts like 5 years? In this country anyway, has really pushed that Porsche Classic scheme. You're seeing like that.
We are seeing more come through, awesome. more so for service work rather than actual major repairs. We've not rebuilt an air-cooled engine for a very long time. Perhaps the last one was a 930 turbo engine maybe a couple of years ago. But we are seeing them through for service work for sure.
Is there anything model-wise where you get a car in and you just have like an emotional affiliation to it and you go, I love that. Not specific car, but just like, say, a generation or something. I was
going to say Caymans.
I was going to say, you know the answer already.
But then, conversely, I also want to know, like, is there a car that comes in, a certain model, and you just think, for crying out loud, I can't stand
So for me, I never used to look at a Cayman and think, cool, that's a good car. Never used to look at it. And as soon as you own one and you get behind the wheel and like you attach and you grow to it, it's a weird feeling. So like a couple of days ago, we had a Guards Red 987 Cayman come in, 2.7, Billy Basic.
Yeah.
And you just look at it and you think, oh, what a car. And I get excited about it. It's awesome. But then on the flip of that, I'm now the same with Cayenne diesels. I never used to look at a Cayenne diesel and go, oh, that's a nice car. Whereas now I own one and one comes in, I'm looking at like the subtle changes, subtle specs on it. So I appreciate it more. So that's weird. Any GT product that comes through the doors is just awesome. There's nothing to not like about them. So always get excited about any GT products that come through.
If you had pick of the lineup, what would be your go-to?
Oh God, what, any Porsche? No money. No. Probably. So there's a 996 GT1 out there that it's the Eva. I think it's the only it's the only race car that was converted to the street use
version.
Yes, it was the one that Lazanti converted. It was sold in Monaco like 2-3 years ago for like 2.3 million. Like that for me is
that's the one.
Very specific.
That is the unicorn. Like if I could have any Porsche, like that'd be me. All day long.
Interesting.
Well, look, we're staying on the theme of soft tops because by nature that's kind of what the Boxster is. But you and your centre have notable success in the Resto Racing Championship with the 986 Boxster.
Yes.
Conceptually, start to finish, like take us on that journey, basically.
So, oh my God. So Porsche, I can't even remember
that was a customer's car, wasn't it? Not?
So the car itself was a customer's car. It was a one-owner car, bought new from us. We PDI'd it. We've looked after it its whole life. It came into us for an MOT, failed its MOT on a lower arm and something else. And we did a vehicle health check, which is a complimentary inspection, and noted a few bits like the clutch was heavy and worn, needed a new clutch. There was a couple of oil leaks, needed a bit of love, basically. And when a customer came to collect it, he basically said, do you know anyone who's interested in buying my car? Because I'm emigrating, moving out of the country. And literally it tied in like a week after we'd signed up to this resto racing event where we needed a early 986 Boxster.
Perfect timing.
Absolutely perfect timing. And it needed a bit of love.
Yeah.
Failed its MOT. So straight away jumped on it. I was like, yeah, we'll buy it. You know, it's a 60,000 mile car, low mileage. The history was there. We know that car. So we bought it off the customer, and we embarked on this epic journey of turning it into a race car and raced it for 2 seasons. And yeah.
So how long before the season started did you have the car?
So we had the car for about 6 months, I'd say.
Okay, so prep time.
Prep time, yeah, for about 6 months. But a lot of that prep time was the car at the body shop, getting its paint, roll cage welded in, and those bits and pieces. And
a lot went into the prep on those, isn't it?
A lot went into the prep. A lot of attention to detail.
It's not just a paint job, is it?
No, obviously all the livery was all sprayed on and all done properly. You know, even the interior was all painted. Everything was done. It was basically like a full bare shell nut and bolt build for a race car.
Yeah.
And we refreshed everything. Had new suspension, new brakes, new bearings, new everything, new seat, interior bits and pieces. So steering wheel, harnesses. We did a full engine rebuild on it.
How tight were they on the spec car to car? How even were the cars?
Regulations on them were really, really limited. So the first season, it had to be standard suspension. It had to be standard engine, no modifications to the engine. All the cars had to run a road tyre, which was a Pirelli Trofeo R, and a Pirelli P0 as a wet tyre choice. It had the standard safety regulations as sort of any sort of race series. So they were really, really close. The only difference is the early 986 was a lower brake horsepower engine to the later one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So an early one, I think it left the factory with like, I'm sure it's 254 brake from memory. And then the later facelifted 986S, that had 260 brake. So there's a couple of teams out there that had the later 986S with, a handful of extra horsepower. But reality is it probably didn't make all the difference. It was more down to driver skill. That was kind of the idea of it.
And how do they pick the drivers?
So the whole idea was Porsche Centre buys a car, Porsche Centre builds a car, and then a member of that Porsche Centre would race the car. That was the whole...
You were racing against other Porsche Centres.
Yeah, racing against other Porsche Centres in Class 3, and that was the whole crux of it. It's like a whole Porsche dealership, entry, everything.
How many was it? Was it 15, 16?
There was about 15 cars, I'd say, in Class 3, but we raced along Class 1 and 2 of the Porsche Cup. But we couldn't get a driver signed off at our dealership, which is very, very sad. So it was right up to the end
Surely your name was in the hat for that job.
I would have loved it.
Why were you not in the seat?
So basically, it all boils down to the red tape and the politics of health and safety. So we couldn't get it signed off. Nobody would allow a member of staff to risk doing it because of the...
No fun allowed.
Yeah, no fun allowed.
I reckon it was because they welded the roof on and you just couldn't get in it. That was the end of that.
Yeah, so the health and safety police kind of burst that bubble for us. But we were in a predicament because obviously we'd invested in a car, we built this car, and then a couple of weeks before us, ready to race for the first race of the season, we didn't have a driver. Nothing got signed off. So
how come that wasn't in the blueprint of the plans right at the beginning rather than the end?
Well, it kind of was, and we were hoping that there was a kind of a loophole that we could sort of get through, and it never panned out really. And it went, it went to director level of our franchise, and it wouldn't happen basically. I think they're too worried if something happened to us if we crashed, the liability and things like that. But yeah, long story short is we basically called Porsche for help, and they got their trusty driver from the Porsche Experience Centre, Ben McLaughlin, in the saddle, and he raced it for us for the first year and second year. But for the first year, because he was an ex-professional driver, we couldn't score points. So we could take part, we could race, we could be involved.
So how well did the car run then? How well did he do?
And the car was just faultless. It was absolutely faultless. We had a few issues along the way. Nothing's perfect at the end of the day, but
when you say a few issues, was that the sunburn that you guys got over a weekend at Brands Hatch?
So Brands Hatch was eventful. First time at the track with the car. We were testing it on the Friday. The car had probably done.
Do you get burnt at every track you go to?
Yeah, good point, actually. Good point. But no, the car was just wicked, and it probably done 20 miles maybe on the road since being completely
for
built.
A shakedown.
For a shakedown, 20 road miles, which is nothing. Yeah. Fresh engine as well on 20 miles. Not even running engine, and got out on practice, and it just started leaking oil, like horrendous, just drip, almost pouring out the side of this engine. And,
did you build that engine?
I did build that engine. Yeah,
flatbedded back home.
So honestly, it was.
I'll take this one home, boys. Don't worry.
My heart absolutely sank because I thought, oh my god, I've ruined the whole weekend. We can't race it. Game over. Limped it back into the pits, and we looked at the side of it, and it was like a green end cap on the M96 engine, and it basically kept popping out. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So we popped it back in, started up, blew straight out again, oil dripping. So we're thinking, okay, we haven't really got any spares, don't really know what to do. And I had a snap-on socket rail with all my sockets on it. I thought, I know what we can do is we can butcher up the metal from the socket rail into like a right angle piece, bolt it onto the cam cover, and then have it right angle butted up against the green cap. Keep the green cap in. Happy days, might leak a little bit, but be all right. Race car and all of that. Did all of that, and it's still just dripping oil horrendously. And basically, the cause of that was there's a bit of the sealant of the cam cover had dropped down and blocks the oil gallery for the lower cam journal. So it's building up oil pressure behind that green cap, which is why it kept popping out. So yeah, literally 20, 30 minutes before the end of the last practice session, me and Jack were there ripping the side of this engine apart, timing it up, no special tools, got it sorted, got it back out for the end of the practice, went out the next day, and qualifying pole, won the race.
That is excellent.
So yeah, honestly, it was like you couldn't write, couldn't have written it, but no, the car was just wicked, and from that we haven't really had any other issues. With a few teething bits where we swapped out the steering rack because of graunching noises. A few issues with the brake bleed nipples, the amount of brake bleeds you do on sort of race car, track car. The threads get weak in the calipers, so we had a few issues with leaking bleed nipples. So we swapped out calipers a few times, but the car was just wicked, absolutely wicked, and it's gut wrenching because we've recently just sold it. So,
it's gone.
So the car's gone. So we sold it to a lovely chap up in Scotland who bought it for his daughter to race, which is wicked. He couldn't have sold it to a nicer guy. Really, really nice chap. Spoken to him a couple of times on the phone, and but it's just sad. It's like seeing your baby go. All that work we've built, all that love and dedication, and the sleepless weekends, and the journey we've had with it has just been epic. And to see it sold and gone
was that a good team builder?
Massive, massive team building. So the weekends away racing were just wicked. We stayed in every Premier Inn across the UK. It's just been wicked.
So is there any more resto racing on the cards, or have they shut up shop on that?
Not for us. So we did 2 seasons. They are running it again this year.
Are they? Okay.
And there are Porsche Centres still involved. But Porsche Bournemouth decided to sort of close the curtains on that chapter, really.
Well, you won every race, wasn't it?
I think there was one race we didn't. I think Matt Bird might have pinched.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. Exactly it. That's exactly it. Followed into their footsteps. But we closed that curtain. We've done our 2 seasons, sort of left with our heads held high as such.
Good stuff.
And so sad to see that car go. So sad.
But the story continues elsewhere, as you said. That's a nice...
Exactly,
nice
exactly.
chapter.
So it's still out there. It's still being raced. And hopefully we can get to, one of the race weekends and see it out there going around the track still, albeit with a different ownership and driver.
Can you not be a Porsche Centre and race in that series?
Yes, you can. Yeah, so any member of the public can get a car, build it to regs, and enter into that series. Yeah,
that's good.
Just give us the rundown. So what's a reg spec car? Is it just got to be Boxster?
So it depends what class you race in. So if you're in class 1 or 2, you can be in 911 Cayman or Boxster, and then I believe class 3 is a Boxster 3.2 S. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, really cool. Well, that kind of leads on nicely. So where the 986 Boxster is, according to Porsche now, a classic.
Yes.
What is the difference between a classic centre and a non-classic centre? I'm intrigued to know.
So classic centres are more geared up and have got better trained staff for working on the classic cars. So you've got two sides of things. So being a classic centre, they would buy, prep and sell classic cars. That's one side of the thing on the sales aspect. So you'd have a dedicated section in the showroom for selling classic cars. On the other side, in the workshop, you're more geared up for the servicing, maintenance, bigger repairs, even sort of restorations on the classic side. There's dedicated training courses for technicians to be specifically classic trained. Even things down to sort of like the workshop tooling, you'd have more dedicated tooling for the classic cars.
Yeah.
Things like vapor blaster to clean up sort of bits and pieces. They'd still outsource things like trimming seats and bits and pieces, but you'd want to keep as much as possible in-house.
Yeah.
All that training, where it's going back through a few eras, is that all done in the UK, or do you have to go
main
head office,
main technical training centre is at Porsche GB at Reading.
Yeah.
They've invested loads of money into a new training centre, like state of the art facility. It's incredible. There's 4 main training classrooms as such, which are on like a mezzanine floor, and then they overlook 4 individual workshops through a glass window dedicated purely for training. So the majority of the training courses are held there. There is a classic training course that's held out in Germany, I believe for about 5 days, I think it is. I'm yet to know of anyone at our centre to go on it. But yeah,
something interest you, or is it not?
Yeah, I think any training, you jump at the chance. There's knowledge is power at the end of the day, isn't it? As much as information you can get in about everything, you just jump at the chance and try and absorb it all.
That whole Porsche Classic scheme is only going to get bigger and bigger. Isn't
it's only going to grow. Yeah, it's only going to grow.
How many centres are there in the UK at the moment?
Classic centres. Oh, good question. I think there's about 4 or 5. Yeah,
Hatfield,
not
Glasgow,
many.
Swindon,
Leeds.
And Leeds, yeah.
So we need one down here.
Yeah, exactly.
So new dealership coming.
So yeah, we've got a new dealership. It's being built at the moment. We're due to get the keys middle of next year.
Right.
We're going to be tripling in size.
It's going to be massive.
It's going to be massive. The workshop is going to be just incredible. So you can't wait for that. Whether it's going to be a classic centre or not, I still don't know. I think they're edging on the side of pushing towards to be a classic centre.
Yeah.
But I don't think anything's been set in stone just yet. But new centre is going to be wicked. We desperately need the space.
Well, yeah.
It's tight there, isn't
we
it,
are.
currently?
We've outgrown our...
that was outgrown about 20 years ago.
Exactly. So what we do on that site and the work we push out and the numbers we push out and selling cars is incredible for the size we are.
Will it make your job easier just having that new setup, more space?
I think there'll be new challenges, but being easier, it'll be easier in some aspects. All the equipment's all going to be brand new. We're not going to have issues with anything breaking on the maintenance side of things. But yeah, there'll be new challenges for sure, but we'll cross those bridges as we come to it and deal with them as and when.
Could be a good location for a Road to Redline Cars and Coffee morning if the world
that would be wicked, wouldn't it? That would be wicked.
Giving the right people a nudge, Scotty. Yeah, great. So we'll finish off, if it's right with you, of just a bit of a workshop 101. Do some myth busting for some technical stuff because I know we covered the IMS question earlier on today. Everybody always wants to know about that, don't they? 996, 997.
I think the whole world does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's the go-to thing, isn't it?
The other thing is scored bores though on cars of that vintage. How bad is it really, like percentage-wise, on cars that you've seen?
It's pretty. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty common. The cars you see. So, 3.2 Boxsters generally not too bad on the 987s. The scored bores for me, you usually see them on 987 Cayman S's, so the 3.4s, the 3.4 Boxster 987s, and then going forward into 997.1s with the 3.8 engine. It's fairly common. I see it fairly regularly. I could speak to a customer and they'll describe very, very early symptoms of it, and I know straight away, that's your cylinder 6 liner starting to go. So they are out there. It does happen. It's happened to my Cayman.
What does that story sound like? How does that conversation normally go?
So usually you get like a smoking on startup, but only out of, so on a 911 you get the smoking only out of one bank of the exhaust. So for example, your left-hand exhaust on a startup will chuff a blue smoke out the back. Added to that, you'd then get a bit of sooting on your exhaust tailpipes, black sooting. It's unlikely that your oil consumption is actually going to go down unless you leave it for a long time. But usually it starts with smoking on startup, a sooty exhaust. Then you will then go down the oil consumption route where it's starting to burn a little bit of oil, but we're talking a minimal amount. If you then leave it for longer, the engine will then develop a tappy, knocky noise, more so on bank 2. All the scoring I've seen, it always develops on cylinder 6 first, and then kind of works its way back. So you get cylinder 6 scoring on the top half of the liner, then it will move on to 5 and then 4.
Is there a reason for that? Is it just because it's near the exhaust hotter?
Again, there's loads of myths out there and nothing's been confirmed officially as to the exact cause. I read one article that kind of made sense, whereas cylinder 6, the design of that engine, it can create where the coolant pump is. That cylinder 6 is the furthest point away, and there's a pocket of coolant that can sort of gather on top of cylinder 6 liner, and it doesn't get that adequate coolant flow. So when the cars are operating at temperature and you can drive to a standstill, so if you're at a set of traffic lights, you then create that hot spot on top of that cylinder. You will then pull away from those traffic lights, perhaps a little bit faster than you should. Because you've got that hot spot created on top of that cylinder, you then get that increased wear.
Right. Yeah.
And then that increased wear just goes and goes and goes until that bore literally starts scoring and picking up on the material. Whether that's the truth behind it, I don't know. But that's kind of what I'm led to believe.
What does the absolute worst one you've ever seen look like? How do you describe that to somebody?
Worst one I've seen is, exhaust tailpipe blacker than the ace of spades. Engine comes into us and it's physically knocking.
You hear it?
Yeah, you can hear it straight away. You can see what it is before you've even driven the car in because of the difference in the exhaust pipes. But then off at the back of that, if you take the oil filter out, the oil filter would just be full of metal swarf, glitter, whereas literal metal deposits of that liner is just...
And when you take it apart, I mean, how is it really obvious?
Oh, massively obvious, massively obvious. You can see it straight away. Usually you can just pull a spark plug out, get a bore scope down, and you can just see the scoring. It always starts at the top, so you can angle the camera directly at the point. So yeah, I've seen them quite often. I must have built, 10, 15 engines just for scored bores and replaced crankcase halves.
Do Porsche still sell short engines for M96?
So yeah, they sell short engines. They sell just the bare casings, or you can buy a complete engine long block. It all depends what the most financial, what the best scenario is, depending on what the car needs.
I thought they were quite, fairly economically priced at one point. I saw some, I can't remember what it was now. I don't know if it was a short block or long block, but they were, it was.
Yeah, you could get an exchange at one point. I think you could get an exchange short block for something like 4 or 5 grand, which was actually not too bad.
Awesome,
not too bad. But I think it's quite model specific.
Right.
I think that might have been on an early 987S. So whether they had a surplus of them at the factory and thought, well, let's do a special deal on these. I don't know, but I'm not sure where they're at the moment. But definitely at one point they were quite reasonable.
I saw somebody the other day saying that they'd actually got a load of air-cooled short blocks have appeared from Porsche. About 100 of them have come through the classic scheme.
Wow!
So they were just like bare, castings, and they've been machined up.
I can't remember somewhere. Wasn't it something when I think they pulled them out from one of the race series and they were spares or something.
Yeah.
So they had the blanks and they machined them up. And,
well, this is it. If the tooling's there's no reason why they can't remanufacture.
Yeah.
If the demand's there, especially the price on the classic market now, makes sense to reproduce.
All over the place.
So, why not?
Yeah. You might be able to help actually, Scott. So I'm at the moment putting a YouTube video together on like buying a high mileage 996.
Yeah.
Should you worry if you're in the market, if your budget can only get to say, you're well into six figures, your M96 engine, should it be a worry? Like if so, like what should you look for over something that isn't, or does it really more than anything just come down to condition?
I think it's difficult with cars of the age and mileage. You could have a 200996 that's got 140,000 on the clock and it be absolutely perfect. It's been maintained well. When a suspension arm's gone and started creaking, it's been replaced. And, you could have that car be mechanically brilliant. You could then have, on the flip side, you could have a 20,000 mile 996 that's just been stood and left to rot and all the rubbers are perished. And that car that's done 20,000 miles is probably going to need £4,000 worth of work more than perhaps a car that's done higher mileage. We tend to see higher mileage cars tend to be the better cars, because they're the ones that are getting used, they're getting maintained properly, they're getting the regular maintenance. It's the cars that are sort of squirreled away, not used. On a service, we'll advise, you need a drive belt doing and you need this doing. But the customer only does 1,000 miles a year, so he'll decline the work.
Yeah.
Another year will go on, same scenario, but another couple of things have added on the list.
Bills stack up,
and then before you know it, you've got a 906 that needs £6,000 worth of work, and it's all panic stations.
Yeah.
I think it swings around about. I think you've just got to do your homework. You need to look at the bits you need to look at.
Would you always go service history over mileage then, as a rule?
I don't think a stamp in a book is, it's, don't get me wrong, making sure a car's had its right oil changes at the right time is crucial. But
sorry, when I say service, it's more extensive service work.
It's the extensive service work. It's the additional bits. It's the replacement of components when they're revised at that time.
Actually, you might be able to tell us. So if you're looking at a second-hand car that's apparently been through the Porsche network, it's all official stamp and all the rest of it. Could you pick up your phone to your local dealer and say, what's this car actually look like from a service point of view? Will they give you that information? I'm sure you don't want a million phones.
GDPR. We can't release information from previous.
Really?
So we can't really. We could help in some respects, but like you say, GDPR has just killed it now.
You can't say, that's had everything done, or that might need a few bits. So you just can't get into it.
Yeah, we can't really get into we could get into the details of the service. We could tell you, that's been serviced at Porsche Centre Newcastle at X.
Once you buy a car, and then say then it came in for a service at an OPC at Bournemouth, for example, can you then divulge about the history of what that car's had? Can you be more open at that point?
I think you could, but I still think you'd have to be careful. You'd have to be careful because, if, for example, a car came in and we said, all right, you've got rodent damage onto this wiring, you need a main wiring loom. We know at the centre that, that car's come to us for the last 5 years and we've reported that to the previous owner.
Yeah.
Nothing's happened. The car still runs fine, but it's got this damage. I don't think we would probably want to tell that owner, we've known about that for the last 5 years, but the previous guys decided to decline it.
Yeah, I wasn't so much trying to chase out the person selling it. It was more, is there an easy way, or not an easy way, is there a fairly straightforward way for someone to give you a decent rundown on whether the car's been looked after really well, like you just described, or whether it has just been wheeled out for its service?
An inspection will do that.
An inspection would do that, and that is a massive, I mean, I'm probably the exception because I buy cars blind. I don't even look at them, and I'll risk it. But if you're not mechanically minded, you don't know how to spin a spanner, and you are worried about the maintenance, the costs it's going to involve.
Well, give us the full on sale pitch on the inspection, because I mean I think it's always, for a lot of people, it's the go to, isn't it? I mean, how involved is it? What does it cover? Do you think is that the golden ticket to kind of getting a bit of peace of mind before you part with your money?
I think it is, because you can budget better, but you can vary inspections. You could have a visual inspection, which is just a 15-minute quick look over your tyres, your brakes, your main ticket items. Porsche do something called a 111-point check.
Yeah, that's what
and they basically go through everything on that vehicle. They'll go through every electrical component, check the service history. They'll check what they call a vehicle analyst log. So they'll plug in the diagnostic machine, and they read off all the vehicle data. They can check to see if the car's been remapped. They can check rev ranges to see how that car's been driven.
Do you know how much one of those is at the moment, roughly?
111-point check. It's about an hour and a half's work. So it depends what Porsche Centre you're at versus the labour rate. But yeah, it's not mega
they do
money.
vary. There's not a
They
standard.
do, yeah. Porsche's labour rates do vary depending
Do you know
on where
roughly
you
what
are
that'd be at
location.
Bournemouth at the moment? Just give us a
Bournemouth,
feel.
I think we're about £165 an hour plus VAT.
Okay.
That's for the newer cars. Obviously, classic cars, it's a reduced rate.
I had a free one done at Porsche Bournemouth.
111-point check.
I'm not sure it was 111-point check.
That
It
would
was
be the complimentary.
That would
Yeah,
probably
that
be
was
the
like the
complimentary
classic
vehicle
check.
health check, which is more a 15-minute visual inspection.
I know Nick was on it for quite a while.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
It's probably laughing at your bold ties.
Yeah. No, that was before they were bald.
It took them that long to write the list out.
But that was quite involved. And it was free.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're trying to get.
Trying to upsell some work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think like that.
I think it
111-point
did
check.
say dodgy tyres. Actually,
that 111-point check. It's like 300, 400 quid, whatever it is, but that it could save you a shed load of cash in the long run.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I was getting
Tell you
at. It sounds
unequivocally
like
if you're buying
yeah.
the right car or not. You know, and I always say, isn't there? There's three things to look for when buying a car: condition. Walking around a 911 or a Porsche, you can't see anything. You've got to get it in the air. You know.
Did you fail to take your own advice then?
Yeah, I did. I really did. Yeah. So learn from my mistake, without a doubt. You know, and get somebody to have a look. And by the same token, whoever's selling that car should be confident enough to say, yeah, no problem. If you want a third party inspection, not a problem. Don't expect the car to come back with nothing. Say it's a 10, 15-year-old, 996, 997. There will be things on it, but you'll know whether you're buying a car that's about to lunch itself or
exactly,
not.
Exactly. Even just general service items like checking the tyres and your brakes. A set of disc and pads all round on a 911 isn't cheap. Everything else might be perfect, but before you know it, you're into £1,000 just to replace the brakes, and perhaps you might not know about it.
Yeah.
I suppose from the cheeky point of view as well, it's good negotiating power if you've suddenly got a list of bits and you can say, look, it needs this, so let's have a chat.
Do a deal.
Do you do lots of those?
We do a few more. We don't really do pre-sales inspections for sort of private customers. I don't know why. We don't really get many people coming into us. We have a couple, but not many. Most of the 111-point checks we do are because customers want to either extend their warranty, or it's for cars that we've bought in and we're doing them for our prep.
Might be time. I tried to get one at Porsche Tunbridge once, and they said, we can fit you in 2 weeks' time. It's like, well, I want to go and look at the car tomorrow. So that's
the trouble, because we're running a 2-3 week lead time at the moment, just where we're so busy. Especially since lockdown, people have obviously saved up some money. Their cars are sat there, and now all of a sudden they want all the work done. That's like you say. If you see a car on Auto Trader at the weekend, you want to go and look at it. You almost need an instant then and there, and that's not always available, is it?
Yeah. The 991. Is the most popular 911 generation. Like, how bulletproof are they, generally speaking? Like Gen 1 and Gen 2?
Yeah, so Gen 1's obviously last the natural aspirated engines, for me, the one to go for. They're wicked bits of kit. Gearboxes are good. There's a few teething issues, so they suffer quite commonly from coolant warning failures coming up on the dash. They've got quite a complex vacuum system on them you could have up to 8 or 9 vacuum switchover valves. If one of those goes down, all of them sort of throws the system into a bit of sort of chaos.
Must be a trial trying to work out which one.
Yeah, trying to diagnose is a bit fiddly, but we've got it down to a T now, which is good. But generally, they're great. Generally, they're great cars. The engines on them, they suffer sometimes with valve lifts, solenoids going, causes misfires on one bank. Lots of little things,
but no nasties, no ball scoring or
no. I mean, I've seen a couple of engine. I did one engine on a 991 that spun a bearing, so the rod basically just ruined the crankshaft. That was a bit of a catastrophic failure, but that wasn't common. That was kind of just a one-off thing.
I've heard of sport exhaust, like flaps being stuck open. So
again, that goes back to the vacuum system because it's they're vacuum controlled. So if you get a vacuum system issue, then your sports exhaust will be on throughout the whole rev range and not switch on and off. So that's quite common. The actual actuators themselves, I've not seen many seize. Earlier cars, Boxster 996, they used to sort of seize and rattle, but not on the 991s. They're good cars. Going on to the .2s, obviously they switched engine. So you're into the 3-litre turbos. See a few turbocharger failures on those. Also, water pumps tend to leak. And they've got what they call an active water pump. So there's like a vacuum sleeve that will go in and out over the propellers. So if the water pump's not needed, it will sort of dimmy control that. That can then fail, and you get coolant then gets sucked up into the vacuum line, and then that will then damage the switchover valves. That's quite common. We see there's a trend there. There's obviously an issue. So yeah, turbos and water pumps on those cars we see quite often. But other than that, they're generally cracking.
Are either those, I mean, a water pump or turbo failure? I mean, how big are jobs are those in the general scheme of things? Are they?
I guess they're probably warranty covers still, aren't they?
Yeah,
as well?
warranty covers obviously the turbochargers failing and water pumps. Water pump failure could be a 6-7 hour job. Turbos probably a little bit, sort of half that maybe. But it all depends. We see often it's corrosion that they suffer with on the fixings. Obviously the engine's at the back. It's getting all of the spray, all of the road salt up on there. So you get a turbocharger on a car that's sort of 4 or 5 years old, that's had constant rain abuse from being dailied. Yeah, you could battle with one fixing because it's just corroded away, and then that's where your time then obviously increases.
Drilling out. And
exactly. So
that's like classic 911 trait, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of like the Achilles heel, really. Like you get the exhaust fixings that corrode away.
Bit of a tangent, but like going to that location thing, do you think you can tell the difference between cars that have lived on the south coast down here with salt?
100%. Oh god, yeah.
You can.
Yeah. So we had a couple of used cars that had come to us from Scotland.
Yeah.
And we had a 4-year-old car and needed brake lines throughout.
Really?
Jeez. Yeah. Just from obviously the sea salt spraying up, it was just horrendous. Never seen anything like it. Wow. So yeah, you could definitely tell a car from sort of a London car versus a car that's been on the coast. Yeah, for sure.
Got to feel sorry for people in Scotland. They've been thrown into lockdown. Now Scott's saying their cars are worthless. Sorry if anyone's listening north of the border. We apologise for that.
I'm sure there's exceptions out
there.
Backtrack.
Do you go and check your brake lines?
Yeah. But
you
can definitely tell.
If Scott's hourly rate is 165 plus VAT, we should probably look to wrap this up pretty shortly.
Shredding his invoice.
Yeah. If there's any like last questions for the death at all.
Well, I think if there's no more specific questions, we should do the 10 quickfire, surely.
Oh, I haven't done those for ages.
Oh, we haven't. Yeah.
Keep forgetting about those.
Let's crack them out. Come on.
Yeah. So 10 quickfire questions. We ask the same questions to everybody.
Okay.
You're not allowed to think about it. You just say, we say there's no wrong answer, but if you have to think about it, it's not right.
Right. Okay. Fine.
So Scott,
no pressure.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Excellent. Here we go. Right. Air or water?
Water.
Favourite Porsche model?
911.
Favourite Porsche colour?
Silver.
Ultimate Porsche icon?
GT1.
Nice.
Favourite track?
Silverstone.
To foosh or not to foosh?
To not foosh.
Stock or hot rod?
Hot rod.
Narrow or wide body?
Wide body.
Cars and coffee or a track day?
Track day.
And back seats? Yes or no?
No.
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 No with children.
They were by far the quickest answers we've had.
Yeah. Those were
absolutely.
I reckon he's rehearsed those.
Yeah. What
Boom,
questions?
boom, boom.
I know what I like and I know what I don't.
They were unequivocal. Scott, blinding, like we value your time and expertise. I'm sure people listening at home will think likewise. We're really, really grateful for your time. So
yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
That's our pleasure.
I appreciate that.
Nice
Thank
one.
you.
Cheers for coming right to Redline.